Hello and welcome to this episode of Raising Teens. And I'm joined today by Jinadu and Katherine Hill. And we've got a fascinating topic to talk about today. We've had an email from a mum who's written in and said, often when I'm together with other mums, the conversation revolves around setting boundaries of how much time is spent on screens and phones, or indeed whether we should be setting boundaries at all. We'd love to hear your thoughts and advice on this. Well, Katherine, does that ring a bell with you at all? Or?
Really rings a bell. Our children are grown now, and actually the issue was different for them when they were little. Yeah. But I think this mum is raising an issue that we get asked every single week at Care for the Family. When we're on the road with our teenager events, the one question comes back to digital technology and particularly time. And children, teenagers lounging on sofas, watching generally on laptops, but sometimes watching TV, on mobiles, and parents just not knowing how to get them off those and wanting them to do something else, and finding it's quite a disruption really to family life.
Yeah, and actually it's a very relevant question, because there's some research, isn't there, that the idea of them spending lots of time in front of a screen is not helpful in many ways.
Oh, it's really not helpful. I mean, I think there's a lot of research at the moment about obesity in that generation. And so sitting on a sofa all day, not going outside, definitely contributes to that.
Philip, how do you feel about it?
Well, I think there's a bit of a tension really, because there are positive aspects to the kind of online world that our teenagers are living in. And one of them, I think, is that the whole way that they communicate, the way that they socialise, it is social media. And this has kind of come home to me recently quite forcefully, because my eldest daughter has left home, gone to study, and actually she's keeping in touch with us through social media, through texting, through messaging, almost on a daily basis. And we're discovering that actually it's not all bad. It's actually part of the way that her generation communicates with each other. And so it's trying to find the balance between helping them have a healthy lifestyle, a healthy balance, but also not criticizing and failing to understand the way that they communicate with one another and the kind of the lives that they live online.
That's so right. I think that the whole issue of technology really meets teenagers' developmental needs. So teenagers want to look cool, they want to impress their peers, they want to be a bit removed and establish their identity away from us as their parents. And it's so much easier to do that through texting rather than sort of little notes shoved in somebody's hand outside the bike shed at school or however else we used to have to do it. So you can see why our teens want to be on technology a lot of the time.
And actually, I don't know if you agree with this, but in, can I say our generation? Yeah,
Your generation.
I think in our generation, in our class, you had the kids that were very sociable and were surrounded by friends, and then you had others that found it hard to make relationships. But I think social media opens that up to a much wider variety of child, doesn't it? So there are lots of positives there. But let's try and give this mum some positive advice. Now, I just want to pick up on, I think something you said, Katherine, about the whole obesity thing. The challenge of parenting, isn't it, is when to back off and when to push a little. But it is worth, isn't it, getting our kids involved in activity, whatever it is, outside of that screen time, just to encourage them in that. How could they do that?
No, absolutely. So I was talking to a mum just yesterday, and it was someone who was I think there's different things we can do when they're kind of 13, 14, and it's a different issue when they're the other end of the teenage years. But this was a kind of 13-year-old who was spending most of his day doing Minecraft, and this mum was tearing her hair out. And she said, what can I do? He's on it the whole time. And we talked about the opportunity for encouraging him to do things that were more exciting or as exciting as doing, because Minecraft is exciting. That's why they're doing it. And we talked about the fact that would probably mean a bit more effort from her. So she might have to get in the car and drive him to football or whatever else it was that they were going to do. But that actually gave the opportunity within however you arrange your family life to do those other things, and preferably things outside the home.
Philip, can we just pick that up a second? I think sometimes when our kids are in the teen years, we need some help from other adults, as long as we trust them. To help in this kind of thing. It could be a sports coach, it could be a teacher, it could be a youth leader, and perhaps this is specifically relevant to single parent mums and dads, because it's just hard work. We need someone to come alongside to help get our kids involved in some other stuff.
Yeah, and I think sometimes we can be guilty of actually allowing the screen time to be a little bit of a digital babysitter for our children, because it actually makes our job easier. There's less demands on our time. And so making sure that we don't develop bad habits ourselves, but are prepared to make the sacrifices, put in the energy that we need to do in order to do the harder thing, which is not virtual, not online, but out in the real world.
Philip, just stay with you for a moment on that. We've talked a lot about the positive aspects of social media, but give us another strategy to help parents protect, kind of the amount of time their kids spend in front of screens.
Sure. Well, I think as with so many things with teenagers, it's all about how we negotiate with them, how we bring them in on the discussion, and the rationale, the reasons that we give for the decisions that we want to come to. And so I think actually having certain times and contexts where we all agree we won't have our screens, we won't have our phones. So in our family, we've had a pretty strong decision that we will protect meal times and family times. And actually, if we are going to be watching a film together, I'll say respect the film, we're going to be watching this, we're going to engage, because you want to help your children not just live somewhere else, but to be present in the moment. And so coming up with a strategy, and I think actually meal times is a fairly standard one. We want to be able to talk, and that sometimes means that you have to get out of your bad habits as well, because we're all busy and it's so easy to just go through a couple of emails yourself on your phone during the meal time. And I have actually been caught by my children and told off because I'm breaking my own rules. So establishing certain, I guess, safe zones, or it may be at the end of the evening where you say, right, after 10 o'clock, no more internet or phone. And again, you have to abide by that too.
Okay, so encouraging them to get outdoors a bit. We're establishing safe zones. Katherine, give us something else.
Well, just on that, I think we can make the technology work for us. So it's possible to set your internet settings so they do, isn't it, come on and off at particular times as well. So making those things work for us.
I do think that's really an important point. It's one thing to talk about screen time between the time they come home from school and the time they go to bed, but uninterrupted screen time whilst they're in their bedrooms on their own, connected to the internet, especially in their younger years, is incredibly dangerous, obviously. And the idea of being able to switch off the internet at night, I think, is a powerful one. But it's worth thinking about, isn't it? There are real dangers here, aren't there?
No, there really are. And it's worth thinking through and just checking on our website, checking out the Vodafone website about the different controls that we can have that protect the content of what we see. I mean, this mum is concerned more about the time, but we shouldn't be blind to that. We have quite an advantage. We live in a house with really thick walls, and the internet doesn't work upstairs. However hard we've tried, which is really annoying for us, but actually that's quite good for our teens. But I think also Philip was talking about agreeing things, and I think having that discussion, talking about what are our family values and how they then translate into the time on screens and the other things that we do. Some families, I know, in the evening have an agreement, and again, we're talking about the younger end. It's not appropriate when they're older, because we need to be equipping them to make these good choices themselves. But they have a place where everyone charges their phones and laptops or whatever at night, which isn't in the bedroom. So, but I think the important thing is we're trying to agree it together. It's not us imposing something.
And actually, if we do that when they're younger, the younger end of that, and if we've got kids who aren't yet teenagers, it's a great time to begin building those habits in, isn't it? I like that. I like that idea very much. Just going back to what you said earlier, if parents want some help on that whole protection thing, you found the Vodafone website's very good on that, and of course we've got stuff on our Care for the Family website as well.
Absolutely.
There is one more topic I want to come back to, which is going to make you both squirm in your seats. But before we do, anything else you want to share on this thing? Any ideas that we might have missed?
I think you can literally turn off the wireless at the wall at 10 o'clock, or you can have it so that it's automatically done in your settings. But it doesn't rule out the mobile data that they have. And so we as parents have made a decision that we will keep control of our children's phone plans. So I pay the bills And that means that we don't give them unlimited access to 3G, 4G mobile data. But in a sense, they've got their amount for the month, and once it's gone, which means that they are motivated to not just use up mobile data 4G willy-nilly, but there's a definite cap on it.
Okay, so I'm going to put you both on the spot. All this is very well, but are you both good examples in this area? I'm going to go to you, Philip, because I sense that you're not that good.
No, I'm a fantastic example. I'm faultless. I think it is a challenge, and I think it's a helpful challenge, because what we see as a negative thing in the lives of our teenagers is very often a reflection of something which is a possibility for negativity in our own lives. And you can't lay down the law if you're not keeping it yourself. And so I think we have to think long and hard, what are our values, and then not only agree them with our children but live them ourselves.
Do you know, a mum said to me the other day that she really finds it difficult when they're watching television. You mentioned this earlier, together, but her husband is constantly on his phone. And she says, it gives me the sense that he's not with us. He's present, but he's not actually with us. Okay, confession time for you, Catherine. How good are you at this?
That's me. I'm not bothered about TV. I don't really watch TV much, but I do love my phone. And when we've had family nights when they were younger, I would be there either on my laptop or my phone, just do my emails, because I wasn't really interested in what was on the screen. And that, in hindsight, was a rubbish example. And they used to often say, Mum, come on, watch this with us. And so it is true that they will watch what we do. They'll see if the first thing we do when we come in the house is, check the phone, check the emails. And life's busy and we live in a digital world, and that has to happen. But just to know that the bottom line on all this is the example that we set.
Okay, so a confession from me as well. My wife Dan said to me one night, we'd been watching television together, she said, Rob, in this room there is a phone and a goldfish bowl. If you don't turn it off, they're going to get together. Thanks for joining us for this episode of Raising Teens. We hope you've enjoyed it. And thanks to Philip and Catherine as well. If you've got a topic you'd like to discuss, let us know. If we choose it, we'll send you a free copy of my book, Teenagers, What Every Parent Has to Know. But for now, goodbye from Philip and Catherine and myself, and we really hope you join us next time.
You have been listening to the Raising Teens podcast. For further information about our courses, resources and events, visit us at careforthefamily.org.uk.